I heard that this is where the story ends and the book closes. And not just a chapter, the whole damn book. My name is Solara. I am a seer, I'm a code keeper, I am a timeline reinstator, I am a new earth being, I am a breaker of illusions. What else? Well, I think that's it for now. You are welcome in this space if you are upholding the desire and the action to get rid of the false matrix. I have to apologize to you guys. I am sorry that I have not been back since the first new moon in Virgo. I did not do the first eclipse reading. I've been taking time away and connecting and getting my own codes in order and my own plans in order and seeking outsource guidance for my next steps in all things. And I've been honoring this Virgo season in which Virgo will always come in to help us put ourselves internally in order. I always call Virgo, out of all of the signs in the zodiac, Virgo likes to perfect our souls, likes to help us perfect our souls, likes to help us organize our internal file cabinets in order that we actually begin to create timelines that are in alignment with our own true source encoded rhythm, because that's what connects us to our wealth codes and our true legacy. So I've been away for a month from everything, from here, from my channel SOLARAH'S. I shut down solara.xyz because it was really time for me to do more inner work, to take some time and do more inner work. And I know that I've had some clients in that time. I was very fortunate to have I think 14 people for the Eclipse navigational reading that I did. So I've had some clients in that time, and I've also, been talking to other healer friends, and the themes are very similar, in the sense that this Virgo season was really a huge time of self-inventory. Virgo season always is, but this one very specifically because of all the energy that we're going to talk about now and that I began to hit on in the new moon in Virgo, the first new moon in Virgo that occurred a month ago, that happened at 0 degrees. And so now we have another new moon in Virgo that just happened about 24 hours ago at another anaretic degree. The opening degree was a month ago. Now we have the closing degree at, so it was 29 degrees. We had that new moon yesterday, and about 10 minutes earlier, I think the eclipse reached like its maximum output, you could say, when the moon was at 28 degrees Virgo. So there's a lot to talk about today, and I will be getting into it in just a second. Before I do that, I do want to share with you a new offering I have. I have added to my services a TAROTSTROLOGY wealth codes activation reading. It's a 75 to 90 minute reading with me where we dive into your chart to see what your wealth story is, what your value story is on a personal level, as well as what it is that you are here to do with the collective wealth exchange and the collective building of the New Earth financial system. I have spaces available for the regular reading. I have 5 spots left for that reading if you also seek to get from me, after our session together, a personalized decree to further the power of the activation that comes through in our time together. So I will put the link for that in the Ko-Fi below. And yes, let's get into it. So yesterday, on the 21st of September, we had the second new moon in Virgo of the season. And to take you back to what I spoke to you about with the new moon in Virgo that I think happened on the 22nd of August. And I was speaking about how this Virgo season was going to be a source code override. A source code override. And I have watched over the past few months that come into existence. in, well, I've seen it occur, and let's just say that a lot of that is going to become a lot more materially real over the next few months. We are now, as I record, it is the autumn equinox in the northern hemisphere, spring equinox in the southern. So the sun has just moved into Libra at 0 degrees. So we are now beginning our sun transit through Libra. And a lot of what was being, you could say, like decided during this Virgo season is now being weighed out. That's what Libra is here to do, right? It's the scales of justice. And justice, I know, is a word that comes across sometimes to people as being a little bit harsh. Some people think of justice like synonymously with vengeance, right? But that's not what justice is. At the core of justice is beauty, is beauty that can only be restored and reinstated through harmoniousness. And that is why, although Libra is the sign through which justice is exacted, its ruling planet is Venus. So justice is the reinstatement of the source encoded beauty that emanates forth when all things work in harmonious union, when all things work as they were designed and created to function, including you and I. And this is why Virgo is such a stickler for us coming back into personal alignment and order, because Virgo connects us to our legacy codes, what we came to bring here onto the earth planes, what we came to seed, what we came to grow, what we came to ultimately harvest for the purpose of our own ability to thrive here, as well as what we came here to multiply and give and to share so that others are able to thrive in their positions too. And I will often say that legacy, the ultimate legacy, cosmologically speaking, is leaving the planet a better place frequentially because you existed. It's leaving the planet in a better state frequentially because you existed. Okay? So Virgo is a stickler for how you use your energy, how you learn how to keep yourself, look after yourself. Virgo is very self-centric. And the reason for that is because Virgo has this deep knowledge and wisdom concerning how it's so important that we come into alignment and true knowledge of self, because it's only from that place that our service is real. Anything else becomes an act of self-sacrifice, which is self-betrayal. And anytime you betray yourself in any way, it is a way that you put distance between yourself. It's a way you bring schism into your own fields. And anytime we bring schism into our own fields and separation from self, we also bring schism between our pure connection to source. So Virgo is very much a sign of introspection that helps us come into alignment with self so that we can actually live in accordance with who we are. We can have the protections afforded us while we're here, and we can actually do what it is that we came here to do. Now, both Virgo and Pisces are signs that are checkpoints. Virgo more so than Pisces, but they both are initiators into cycles. Virgo is the initiator into the second half of the zodiac wheel, which has to do with how you negotiate your energy with the other, with another person intimately through Libra, and then it grows and grows and grows through Aquarius with how you share and grow your energy within the collective story. And then in Pisces, it kind of begins like this merging thing where we learn how to be at one with everything. But the shadow energy of Pisces is that because it's mutable water, we can lose ourselves if we don't know who we are. This is what Virgo helps us to really get a hold of, knowing who you are. And even in the past few days, as we were getting closer to the new moon in Virgo, I was getting a lot of downloads about how this is a time when many people will begin, many people who've been doing the work, you guys are going to begin to wake up to more knowledge of self, especially if you've been spending this Virgo season, taking full opportunity to utilize the power of Virgo medicine to draw you in and show you what it is that your soul actually wants to speak to you. And another big theme that's been coming up, and I have written about it on the community board, as well as on Threads. I've shared with it, I've shared it with you guys if you're over there, and it's also been coming up a lot in my Eclipse navigational readings I had with clients, and that is that Virgo and Pisces, and please note that we've been going through an eclipse season while the sun was transiting through Virgo, but that's directly because of the nodal transits, with the north node being in Pisces and the south node being in Virgo. So as such, the themes that have been really magnified through this eclipse season are themes that began to open up about, I think it's like 7 months ago now, when the nodes made their switch into Pisces and Virgo. And they are themes that are going to continue to be prominent throughout this nodal transit. They will come into magnification again through the next eclipse season, when the sun enters into Pisces, and all the way through until the nodes then move into Aquarius and Leo. Okay, so one of the big things that we're really being invited to take a look at is this theme of true service versus sacrifice. Because in the false matrix, we were programmed automatically to externalize everything. And so as such, our service was celebrated. The more we sacrificed, the more it was celebrated in the culture of the false matrix, right? So the more that you gave of yourself, even if you had nothing to, especially when you had nothing to give, then you were celebrated. It's that martyrdom narrative that was seeded in us through a lot of religion and religious programming, but also just the basic stories and tenets that we associate with morality are all about, giving of yourself over others, right? And it sounds really nice in theory, right? Like we hear all of these stories about people who give their lives for us. They give their lives for us. And what does that inspire in most people? Well, for some people it inspires awe, but I would say the root energy that is really being activated through that is guilt and shame. Guilt and shame that then propels us to continue to give from a place of depletion. But that's not how it's supposed to be. And actually, when we give from depletion, we are opening ourselves up to harvesting, and we are feeding the energy harvesting and siphoning systems of the false matrix, which is exactly why they wanted us in that self-sacrificial mode, and exactly why they elevated and celebrated those beings who did that in more public ways. And it's also how they kept many of us high frequency beings, those of us who are here to ultimately give, but also to be properly replenished and restored so that we can give properly without adding to the siphoning structures. It's also how they kept us in place, right? Because, and I talked about this in a video I did about religion on SOLARAH'S, I want to say like maybe 2 months ago. But what was I going to say? Morality, religion. I think I lost my thought right there. I will get it back. I will get it back. But the point is that we didn't come here to give from depletion, because giving from depletion is what ultimately keeps the false matrix alive. And they wanted those of us who are this is where I was going to say, naturally have the propensity to want to serve, which is a source code. Like, all source encoded beings have this desire to serve, whether it's to serve humanity, whether it's to serve nature. We have it literally encoded upon our hearts, and they took advantage of that. And they took advantage of that very specifically to harvest us. Okay, so they would pretend with all of those that they put in the spotlight, the influencers, the leaders, the celebrities, that they were all these philanthropic, charitable beings, but really the charities and the philanthropic projects that they were behind were often covers and veils for harvesting hubs, big time energy harvesting hubs, including, churches, all of those places. I got into that in the reading I'm referring to. So really, that whole programming around serving and giving of self has been very detrimental. And for one, this is the reason why I had to pull back my energy for a month, because I had found myself in the last year especially giving from depletion. And not because anyone put pressure on me to do so, but because it was so imprinted upon me to the point where even though I knew a lot of this stuff, I wasn't noticing, I apologize for that, the unconscious ways in which that programming was so deeply seated inside of me. And so I had to take a step away and reevaluate how I negotiate my value. Because I didn't come here to give of my very rich wisdom and information and to not be able to properly care for myself in order to do that. So I had to have a lot of conversations with myself and deal with my own programming, my own wounding, my own imprinting. And when I talk to other people, I find that this is very much a theme that's been coming up in this eclipse, and you can thank the Virgo Pisces axis for this, that has been magnified through this eclipse window. What did I want to say? Another theme that's coming up. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. So this eclipse comes on the doorway of the equinox, right? Which is today as I record. And the equinox, it occurs twice a year. It occurs in when the sun enters into Aries, astrological New Year in March, and it occurs when the sun enters into Aries' sister sign, Libra, which is the September equinox. And when equinoxes occur, it is when we have equal light and dark in both hemispheres, right? So it has a lot to do with the equilibrium that is necessary for the beginning of something new. It has a lot to do, I'm going to say it again, the equinox has a lot to do with the equilibrium, the energetic equilibrium that is necessary to enter into something new. So you come out of Pisces season into the March equinox, you are entering into a new solar cycle. When the sun enters into Libra and you have the September equinox, you are entering into the second half of that cycle. The first half of that cycle, Aries through Virgo, is all about calibrating self. It's very focused on the medicine of evolving self for the purpose of reaching the next stage of evolution on your own journey and the accompanying timelines. And when you get to the end of Virgo and you enter into Libra, it's about it's about all of the ways yourself begins to relate to what is outside of you, right? So, it shows you this even in the zodiac. First appointment is with self, and then everything else comes into alignment in accordance with how attuned we are with who we are, right? So I think it was on the what's it called, the Delphi, that the temple in Greece. It was etched in stone. Know thyself. That is the ultimate form of enlightenment, because if you know yourself and you're a source encoded being, then you know source. And if you know yourself and you know source, then the way that you carry yourself on the earth, with how you relate to others and what it is you do, becomes source aligned. Okay, so it's very big energy that we're going through right now, with the 2 new moons in Virgo, and then 2 eclipses occurring in Virgo season, and the second and final eclipse happening at the anaretic degree of Virgo at the door of the equinox. So to go back to the title and what was coming through, the channeled message, it's literally the closing of a book that is occurring right now. It's the end of a story, and it's the closing of a book that we are witnessing right now on Earth. And as such, another big theme that's been coming up, and this is the reason why so many of you, so many of us have been called into this deep place of introspection and personal alignment, is that it's time for New Earth leaders to begin to move out of warfare, to move out of the warring stories, and the truth of the matter is that the wars that many of you have been in, it's not that they just stop and they subside because there's a shift on the zodiac wheel, and there's this new chapter or this new book that's opening on the earth. It's not that per se, but it is that your ability to anchor into yourself naturally provides the shields now that begins to repel that energy naturally. And how and why does that occur? Because when you know yourself, then you know intrinsically, I apologize if the tracking is off now, but I don't stop my videos for fuckery. If you know yourself, then you know intrinsically when something is entering into your field that shouldn't be. You know that when you think a thought about yourself that isn't in alignment with your source encoded truth and blueprint, that thought doesn't belong to you. You can combat that thing in an instant. You don't have to wait for anything to grow in your fields and become a problem. And the more that you're able to do that in real time and observe the energies that are yours and that aren't yours, the more you're able to separate yourself and see where you begin and the collective energy begins and where other people's energy begins, etc., etc., the more you anchor into your source encoded truth, and you naturally energetically produce the shields that begin to repel and reject things that are trying to invade you in your sovereign state over self. And that's another lesson. That's something that came in very strongly through the full moon in Pisces eclipse, that ability to be able to be on the earth and be a part of the collective, but still be uniquely yourself and to stand in your frequency sovereignly. So let's get into the breakdown of the chart after that very long introduction, but I feel like I needed to talk about the energies of what is now, what's been going on over the past month, because I wasn't here for the full moon in Pisces. So the sun and the moon in Virgo at 29 degrees. Like I said, that is the closing degree of Virgo. It also, not for nothing, is a Leo degree, right? The final sign, the final degree, the 29 degree is a Leo degree. And this begins to tell me right off the bat that there is an age of Leo story that is here. And it's here being expressed through the sun and the moon, as well as Mars, which is in Libra, or was in Libra at 29 degrees yesterday. So Mars is in Libra at 29 degrees, right on the doorway of entering into Scorpio. And Mars loves its time in Scorpio, so that should be interesting because it will be entering into Scorpio this Libra season as the scales are being weighed. So we'll get into that a little bit more when we get to the Mars portion of this broadcast. So the sun and the moon in Virgo at 29 degrees. Let's think about this also numerically in terms of who Virgo is and what Virgo is representing for us, because we are in a number 9 year, which means that astrologically that is a number that is assigned to Sagittarius, which, not for nothing, when you break down Sagittarius in the art of gematria, the art of connecting the letters to numbers and then breaking them down numerologically, Sagittarius is the only sign of the zodiac that breaks down into the 144 frequency, which is very significant. And it's a frequency, guys. The 144 is a frequency. Okay, so it speaks about the reinstatement of the human frequency that is necessary for harmony on the earth to return, for source code to be reinstated again. Okay, so Sagittarius is the sign of the zodiac that speaks of many things. Out of all the signs of the zodiac, in my opinion, Sagittarius and Virgo are two of the biggest liberating signs. And I know that technically they square each other in a chart, but I actually am of the opinion that they work together really powerfully for the purpose of liberation and for the purpose, and this would be Sagittarian, straight up Sagittarian energy here, for the purpose of putting things back within their boundaries. And Virgo fits in because Virgo is a stickler for putting things in order, right? So when Virgo and Sagittarius get together, things are being put back into order and being put back into their rightful boundaries. And this is what this source code override that I've been talking about, that has been rolling out throughout Virgo season, is about. It's about everything returning where it belongs. It's about those beings that have been living here and trespassing upon the earth and plugging themselves into source encoded beings for the purpose of being able to even be here. It's time for them to go. And Virgo in the tarot, that Hermit card, that is the Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper appears in the tarot on 3 cards, okay? Appears on the Hermit, appears on the Death card, which is the card of Scorpio, and it appears on the Judgment card, riding the horse, which is, again, Scorpio energy, but very specifically connected to Pluto. So if the tarot is anything to go by, and given what we've been going through this Virgo season in terms of a source code override and what the Hermit represents, then Scorpio season might be a very interesting time for literally seeing things that aren't supposed to be here anymore exit. Okay, so to go back to the numerology of the year, the 9 is connected to the Hermit card in the tarot. So the number 9 year that we are in right now is numerologically connected to Sagittarius, and in terms of tarot, it's connected to Virgo, the Hermit card specifically, which tells us right off the bat, this is a year of liberation, right? Liberating beings out of bondage, a year, you could call it a time of jubilee, and reinstating the boundaries very specifically of those who've been the captors, you could say, okay? The ones who have been keeping beings energetically, etherically tied and siphoned on the earth for the purpose of running the false matrix, which is an inversion of source code, an inversion of source law. So let's get into the cards. The sun in Virgo at 29 degrees, it is the Sun card. It is the Hermit card, and the 29 degree mark is the 10 of Pentacles. The moon in Virgo at 29 degrees is the Moon card, the Hermit, the 10 of Pentacles. And another thing I'd like to draw your attention to on this chart is that the presence of 2929, when you break that down, it's 1111. Y'all know what time it is, right? When it's 11:11, it's not your twin flame calling you. I mean, it could be, but that's the generic, the generic code, right? What they use to lure people in. 11 is astrologically a number of Aquarius. And 11 is a number that connects us to gates, opening and closing. Okay, so right here we are seeing with the 2929 that this is initiating the opening of a gate and the closing of another. Now, not for nothing, the sun was expressing itself at 29 degrees and 5 minutes. So 5 minutes into 29 degrees, not literal time minutes, but, and the moon was expressing herself at 29 degrees and 4 minutes. So when you take the minutes of the sun and moon and you add them up together, what do you get? You get 9. So here we have again that number 9. And the number 9 is the end of something. It's the end. And by the time we get to 10, it's the simultaneous overlap of the ending and the beginning happening. So the beginning is burgeoning and the ending is fading out. So 2026, that's the year of the 10, 1 and the 0. It's the year of binary creational code. So we're going through a source code override. We will continue doing that for a while. And through 2026, the new and true source encoded timelines and beings will begin to rise. Okay? And that rising is already beginning with you on a personal level because, like I said, this Virgo season has been about the introspection for the purpose of allowing New Earth leadership to come forth. And when I say New Earth leadership, I know there's a lot of egoic propaganda that flies in false light spirituality circles, but a New Earth leader has nothing to do with popularity and influence. It has everything to do with beings who are leading themselves because they are rooted in their true frequency and their source code. And from that place, if you know you're supposed to be a public figure, which funnily enough, most of the beings that are supposed to be don't want to be, or most of the beings that are supposed to be have been forced into hermit mode because so many of the assholes that are in the so-called spotlight are siphoning off of them and blocking their path. Well, all of that is being overridden. Excuse me. All of that is being overridden in the collective structures that have allowed for that. And now the true work of being a leader over self, frequency, your own sovereignty, and your ability to allow your voice to rise, now that lies on us. Okay, so we have the energy to support it, but the internal work that allows for it to be fully activated allows for us to root in our truth and even be what it is we came here to be. That's a job for self. 1111 is also ringing the alarm bells for the age, right? The gates to the age of Aquarius, they're opening ever wider. And there's a grand shift and closing of a book that ushers us in even further. Now, let's talk a little bit about this 10 of Pentacles energy, because this is where we get the return of true legacy and true lineages back onto the earth. So if you've been hanging with me for a while, you'll know that there are what I like to call true legacy holders that are supposed to be on the planet that have been silenced, binded, gagged, however you want to see it. And there's been a lot of false legacy flaunting as leadership and governance on the earth. And those beings who've been wearing false crowns have been afforded those crowns through the hacking and the prevention of the true code that belongs to true legacy holders. Now, the true legacy holders of the earth, they tend to be beings who are in positions of new earth, in positions of leadership on the earth, of authority on the earth. And again, that authority doesn't necessarily have to be public, it's frequential, right? They are the beings that are responsible for upholding the tenets of source code and source law that allow for all things to flow in harmonious union and for all things to be where they belong and for timelines to flow properly and for karmic loops not to, become an issue, because we're not supposed to be stuck in karmic loops ever going around learning the same lessons when we've graduated. The karmic loop structure was abused. We are supposed to be able to evolve into every aspect of our infinite and multidimensional power that we afford ourselves through the soul work, and to be able to bring that onto the earth planes. And so the true legacy holders of the earth are returning. They're returning to their true frequency. They're getting back what it is that's been taken. Whether we're speaking about literally the theft of their codes, the theft of their gifts, their talents, that has happened through, a lot of etheric fuckery and siphoning. But more importantly, the ultimate way to unlock that is by discovering self. Because once you know who you are and your true contracts, you do begin to nullify the false ones naturally when you raise your frequency and your power back up and you sustain it. Those things will begin to fall off. They'll continue to try and fight you. It's still the fight doesn't end until these beings and their fuckery and all of their like minefields of energetic alarms, like they go out. But at a certain point, you're able to override that when you are rooted in yourself. And this is actually the example that Yeshua came to show us, that he could walk in the false matrix in his source code and still do the multidimensional infinite things that his source code allowed in the midst of the false matrix. This is why he was a defector of the program, and he caught a lot of heat for that, right? So the reinstatement of the true legacy keepers, the legacy bearers, the legacy holders on the earth is beginning to roll out also through this eclipse. And those imposters, mimics, wannabes, whatever you want to call them, they will be being exposed more and more. They will be losing their ability to do what it was they were doing through siphoning. A lot of that is coming into order now, but most importantly, it comes into order again, Virgo, as you come into order first with self, because that will always reflect how you are in order with source. That vertical line, and then the cross. You get to be of true service and give of that wisdom, that energy, that frequency, that beauty to the earth and to the collective. And that's what allows for true legacy to blossom on the earth planes, is when we're connected to source, we're looking after self, we're fully replenished, and we're giving from our overflow, and we're allowing overflow to overflow everywhere else, because we're all working in accordance with true and natural order that begins again with self. So another theme that's been coming up, and I've been talking to people about it, is that many people are feeling like they just don't want to do so many things anymore. And that's completely normal when you are moving frequentially higher, because the more you climb in frequency, the less you are able to be pulled into the false matrix fear narratives that keep you striving and working against yourself. And the more you begin to trust your own ability to look after yourself and the security that you can find in that end source, right? So a lot of people I've been talking to over the past few days, they're just like, I just don't want to do stuff. And for once, like, people are honoring that. Like for me, I've been honoring that. I've been honoring my need to refuel, and I'm not saying it's without guilt. I'm still fully overwriting that program, but I'm doing it anyway, because it's time not to move by the dictates of fear that were the programs to get us out of alignment with self and into alignment with the fake urgency that the false matrix likes to constantly, plow us down with to make us bow and to put us into self-betrayal. It's time to It's time to take a chance on yourself and your power. And that's another theme that Virgo is big for pushing us into, taking a chance on who you say you are, taking a chance on your power and on your ability to exercise that on the earth again, even before you begin to see it materialize. Okay, Mercury in Libra at 5 degrees. So Mercury, it's a planet that speaks to us of all of the information that's available for us to expand into the capacity of our infinite mind, our infinite mental potential. So Mercury in Libra at 5 degrees. So Mercury is moving through Libra presently and helping our minds to come into alignment with everything we've been working through in Virgo season. So all of those themes I was just talking to you about before, that Virgo was here to bring up in us on a personal level, on a collective level, Mercury is helping us to find the true harmony that we need within to establish the rhythms that we should have to thrive, and to also, because we're dealing with Libra, begin to learn how to begin to give that, right? So we first learn how to properly, if we're going to go by the zodiac wheel and the lessons it's here to teach us, we really should first learn how to negotiate our value and our energy, our input and our output, what feels good to us, what allows us to stay feeling fully empowered. We should learn that in our intimate relationships, whether they be romantic, friendships, even in some cases work. How you negotiate yourself on an intimate level with beings that actually care about you and love you is going to actually also flow into how you give yourself to the world, right? So Mercury is helping us to learn these lessons again. Mercury is also speaking to us a little bit about, about give and take in intimacy, about even union codes. There have been union codes that have been flooding the earth. I spoke about them in February, right before the full moon in Virgo, because when the full moon in Virgo comes, it acts a little bit like a vacuum in a vortex, clearing out certain timelines and structures and scenarios that aren't supposed to be here anymore. And so earlier this year, around the full moon in Leo, I was channeling about all of these union codes that were coming back onto the planet. And again, union codes are not only to do with romance. Ultimately, union codes are here to help you and I heal the first schism that is within ourselves, and therefore what caused schism with our pure connection to Source. And then from that place, the union codes with other beings, again, come into place. So definitely, I was just saying this to my partner, we've been talking about this over the past few weeks. A lot of timelines from February seem to be repeating themselves, coming up for closure. And I would say that it has very much to do with what the union codes were designed to do in February, which was to begin to help us do a lot of deeper work to get to this place now where hopefully we're ready to rise into a higher state of readiness, a deeper state of inner union based upon what it was that we've learned about ourselves and what we've learned about one another in relation since February. What these union codes are also designed to do is to bring us back with beings who are here to support us through this final leg of liberation, because most of us have been walking through this valley of the shadow of death. We've been doing it alone. And even when surrounded by people, we've been doing it alone. And there was a real purpose for that, right? You had to get alone. I had to get alone. We had to get alone in order to remember who we are. But now it's time for us to come together and be mirrors of one another's power and strength. So these union codes are here to do that also, and also here to help us break past the fuck shit that was designed to keep us apart, because they knew that if they could keep us apart, that that our frequencies wouldn't be able to come together and, you know, form even grander cohesion on the earth that ushers in this source code even faster. Okay, so Mercury is speaking to us partly about that. Let's break it down into the tarot. So Mercury is the magician in the tarot. The cards of Libra are primarily the Justice card. Secondarily speaking, also the Empress is a card of Libra, because the Empress rules, the Empress is connected to Venus energy, and Venus rules over Libra. Okay, so Libra is about the reinstatement, again, of the justice that allows for harmony and beauty, source encoded beauty, to flow again on the earth, right? So we're getting lessons right now on how to first unlock that within self. And I think it was about 2020, yeah, it was like 2 years ago this time, I did a video on SOLARAH'S that was talking about karmic justice. And I was very specifically saying that the karmic justice we seek because of what has happened to us, it doesn't actually come into full play until we seek out justice for ourselves. And what I mean by that is, until we come back into true harmonious union, until we learn how to love ourselves and reconnect to our power and source encoded truth and the true story of who we are, those karmic justice timelines, they don't really roll out. And the reason for that is because the more that you connect to yourself, the more that everything that's been connecting to you can no longer do that. So the karmic justice comes when you come into full union with self, and nothing that's designed to pull you out of yourself and your sovereignty is able to exist within the realm of your reality. And when that occurs, it causes a shift energetically in dynamics, it causes a shift energetically in timelines, and ultimately, when you call back your shit, if beings are actively doing stuff with it and you're able to hold it again in your frequency, then the things that they are using your energy for can no longer flourish also. So that's the reason. So the 5-degree mark of Libra is astrologically, again, we've got a degree of Leo. So we've got, let's see if we have any more Leo. No, we've got only those degrees coming through. So astrologically, a degree of Leo. So the degrees of Leo are 5, 17, and 29. So we've got a degree of Leo again, and then we've got, in the tarot, this is the Taurus energy. It's the Hierophant card. Okay, so we've got, again, something returning to us that we haven't been in contact with for a while, that we haven't had conscious awareness of possibly since the age of Leo. And it goes back to what I was saying before, what I was, like the downloads that were coming in a few days before this new moon in Virgo, and that is that a lot of beings are going to begin receiving information again about the truth of who they are, your power, your function, the way your energy field works, your true gifts and talents, your true place on the earth, not only now, but who you were before, or who you've always been for as long as you were here before the false matrix existed. A lot of that information is going to be unlocked in you, and it's being unlocked in you. The planets, you know, the transits, they're helping absolutely, but it's ultimately being unlocked in you as you learn who you are yourself and you raise your frequency. As you learn who you are, your frequency comes into alignment with that truth, and it begins to unlock the truth that's been hidden from you but been with you the whole time. So what else? I feel like through this Mercury in Libra also there's a seeding now of new earth systems. So the systems that existed in the false matrix that were all designed for the purpose of perpetuating the programs of our harvesting, those are, we can already see they're collapsing. They've been collapsing. And they will continue to collapse until the last one goes, because the frequency of the new earth, the true source encoded beings that will be here on the new earth, that kind of fuckery cannot be sustained here anymore. And so that collapse is already occurring. It's been occurring, and it will continue. And through this 5-degree mark of Mercury in Libra, what is also happening there are changes that are occurring systemically to support the systems that will be part of the new earth foundations that are necessary to serve humanity, serve humankind, serve nature, serve the plants, the animals, serve the planet on a whole. Venus in Virgo. Okay, so Venus was in Virgo yesterday at 2 degrees when this occurred, at the 48th minute. So Venus in Virgo. So this is I feel like this is a placement of creational order being allowed to bloom again. Creational order being allowed to bloom again, but very specifically, creational order within ourselves. And this again, it has to do with this message of knowing who you are and reclaiming that knowledge of self through what this eclipse has to offer. And through that, your own personal truth and creational order is available for you to come back into place. And then that will flow outwardly into the collective energy too. But Venus is very focused right now through the through Virgo at 2 degrees, at the creational order that comes back into place as humanity comes back into order with itself on an individual level and basis. Which is why a lot of the beings who have not been doing this work have tied themselves to the false matrix, and this is what we're going to see, those people collapse to, right? Because again, the new earth will not sustain the false matrix frequencies, narratives, timelines, mindsets. It's just not going to do that anymore. The earth is not designed to hold other people's shit and other people's density that they have the full access to work through like any of us, but they refuse to do so because they want to cling to these sacrifice cycles that harm themselves and harm others. So Venus in Virgo at 2 degrees. Venus again is the Empress card. Virgo is the Hermit. The 2 degree mark is the 8 of Pentacles. So to go back to what it was I was speaking about before with like people, just feeling like they don't want to do half the shit that they used to do. What it is for the most part is people are tired of performance. People are tired of having to do things for performance, having to do things to prove themselves. None of that exists outside of the false matrix, because you are that you are. I am that I am. There's no need for that. You show up as you are. You trust the rhythms of your own cycles and your own seasons, and that in everything that you do, when you are in alignment with yourself, you're taken care of. And in that place, there's no need for a show. There's no need for performance. There's no need for grind. There's no need for doing shit for appearance's sake. There's just no need, and that's not to say there's no desire to, put on a performance and be artistic and creative and all that, but that's where it needs to, that's the arena it needs to stay in. Whereas in the false matrix, the majority of us were running around wearing masks because we were programmed to do so. We were programmed, and we had to, because literally the grind culture of the false matrix doesn't allow for you to pause, doesn't allow for you to rest, doesn't allow for you to connect to yourself and be who you actually are. It didn't allow for that. It was literally, an enslavement operation, So the Venus in Virgo is really very focused also on the self-care that is necessary for us to begin to begin to plant, harvest that actually are nurturing. So many of us have been building things and growing things, but have they actually been helpful to us as well as helpful to the collective? Because it has to go both ways. Because if it's not helpful to you, it can't be actually helpful to the collective. And if it's not helpful to the collective, you're a part of it. It can't be helpful to you. And so the most important thing in sustaining a beautiful planet in which all things work together harmoniously and at their rightful capacity, and nothing is being pulled into dependency and depletion, the only way to do that is when we take full responsibility for our energetic needs. And this is what the Virgo, Pisces, nodal transit, these are the themes that are coming up. This is what this Virgo season we're really being shown. This is what Venus in Virgo is wanting you to really pay attention to. You've got to care for yourself. When you care for yourself, it is an act of caring for the world. It might not seem like it in that moment, but on a frequential level, if everybody would just worry about themselves, right? Look after themselves, heal themselves, come back into harmony with themselves, that would have a ripple effect on everything on the planet. And that's what we're learning. That's what we're being, over the past few years, that's what we've been being guided into. And now it's like even more radical self-care that feels sometimes uncomfortable because it goes against the grain of everything you were told and programmed that you had to do and be in order to be anything, which was a lie, because you were born already who you are. You never had to strive and prove and grind in order for some external faction to tell you that you're worthy. You were born worthy. You are worthy because you are, right? And as such, you need to treat yourself in accordance with your worth and your value, instead of killing yourself and chasing it outside, where you'll never find it. You will never find your worth and value. You will find your worth and value outside of yourself. You will find poor imitations. You will find like being in a fucking hall of mirrors. And this is why people who keep on, in the false matrix, that was the hamster wheel design. Yeah, like a snake oil merchant. Yeah, if you get to this milestone, you're going to be happy. You get to that milestone, you're going to be happy. You get to that milestone, you still ain't happy. You still ain't happy because the joy is sourced from within self and your direct connection to source. And so everything that you go after until that's reinstated is going to leave you unsatisfied. And they knew that. And they wanted to keep you chasing, keep you going on the hamster wheel to the next milestone, the next dangling carrot, where you would eventually get to this place because I have X amount of money in the bank and this amount of titles and this many degrees and this many children and this house and this car and this handbag and yada, 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 like all of this stuff that was designed to distract and make you think that your happiness and your worth was supposed to be found outside of yourself. And Venus in Virgo says, sit your ass down and realize that you are the wealth. You are the wealth. And as such, you must tend to yourself as if you are a huge investment, because you are. You are. Now, the 2-degree mark, it is a degree of Taurus, which, Taurus, again, is the second sign of the zodiac ruled by Venus. And Taurus is the sign of the zodiac that connects us to our innate and our intrinsic value. Our worth that is, like I said before, it is a result of being, right? The worth that you bring forth from all of your existence across all planes, dimensions, realities, realms, timelines, that wealth that you've accrued in your soul, it sits in Taurus. Its story, I should say, is in the sign of Taurus. The sign of Taurus also is where, your, what I call your endowment from the Divine Mother lives also. You didn't come here to strive and struggle. and beg. You came here with an inheritance. You came here with everything you needed, not to just survive, but to thrive. Yes, you did. And you were given it in order to grow it in accordance with your own unique blueprint. In other words, you were set up not to be able to fail for as long as you stayed in alignment with your blueprint and your truth. Because all you were asked was to be yourself, because that in and of itself is a prosperity code. So the 2-degree mark also connects us in the tarot to the High Priestess. This is the connecting to that deep soul knowledge and wisdom. Like I said, it's already always been in you. The wealth, the prosperity, the knowledge of who you are, every timeline you've lived, it's all within you to access. But it's buried underneath all of the programming and the trauma and the lifetimes of carrying that density and bringing it forth again onto the earth planes, and then what you've accumulated because of what you've been through here. And then that's not even including the bindings and the harvesting and the block, but at the end of the day, it was still with you. That treasure was still with you. There are certain things that no mimic, no imposter, no spell, no siphoning cord, no false matrix can even touch. It was just tucked away for the time when you'd be able to rise into your frequency, remember who you are, and to reclaim it. And this is what Venus is like. Virgo, Venus in Virgo and Virgo in general wants us to sit our asses down and remember. Sit on down, rest enough to remember. Mars in Libra at 29 degrees. So Mars, our divine masculine destroyer, is destroying that which has been a thief of our justice. And I want to say that Mars is not just a destroyer, Mars is also an enforcer. So we have certain planets that are here to bring out the law. Saturn, Jupiter, also is a distributor of the law, and so is Mars. But the way that Mars enforces the law, Mars does it with a touch of aggression and, some manpower. Mars ain't afraid to get in fisticuffs, to do what it is that needs to be done. The expression of Mars that is in harmony with its evolved truth. Mars is here to fight for righteousness. So Mars moving through Libra at this time, this is what I'm talking about, source code override. Okay? So, and Mars and Libra at the anaretic degree, while the Sun and the Moon are in Virgo at the anaretic degree, the closing degree, a degree of Leo, and an eclipse at the door of the equator as the Sun enters 0 degrees of Libra. Mars is like, I've won many battles and now it's time for me to give the knockout punch. That's what I'm getting here. Like, this Mars and Libra energy is a knockout punch. TKO for the false matrix, right? So that's what I'm feeling with this Mars and Libra. So let's speak about the tarot energies here and the numerology. So Mars would be the Tower card, and what a beautiful precursor for what is coming next with the full moon in Aries, because Aries again is under Mars's rulership, and Aries connects us also to Tower energy because of that. Tower, so Aries is the destruction that comes for the establishment of a foundation. So full moon in the Mars in Libra is foreshadowing more of what we can expect through the full moon in Aries, which is more clearing out of that which needs to be gone by the time the moon becomes new in Libra, bringing forth a lot of these source override codes, and a lot of the balancing, the weighing of the scales that Libran energy promotes. So Mars has been already moving through in Virgo season, you know, like grabbing beings by the neck, grabbing shit by the neck and being like, who the fuck are you and what do you think gives you the authority kind of energy, you know? And like I said, it's like a total knockout, like clearing house, cleaning up house is what Mars is helping us to do. And I joke about the like grabbing things around the neck, but this is what you might have been doing in yourself. You might have been finding imposters and trespassers in your energy and giving them that same roughneck treatment. Like, who the fuck is you and why are you in my house? Why are you in my energy? Why are you telling me who I am? Why are you telling me what I can and what I cannot do? Do you not know who I am? I was joking with some friends yesterday because I was just getting ready to take a bath on Friday and I heard whispers. And I heard whispers and it's just like, oh no, she knows. She knows. And I began to realize that a lot of these mimic beings, these imposter beings, these beings that have been putting fear in us, pretending like they had so much power over us, they're like shaking in their boots right now because beings everywhere are waking up and remembering who they are. And that is what they never wanted to see. Because when you wake up and you remember who you are, what do I say? Then they know exactly who the fuck they're not. Right? So a lot of that going on also. Now, Mars is the Tower card. Libra is, again, justice, and to a lesser extent, the Empress, right? And the 29 degree of Libra is, drum roll please, the Four of motherfucking Swords. It's the Four of Swords, right? And, you know, those of you who know tarot know the Four of Swords is a time of rest and replenishment. You know, it's rest and replenishment. The rest and replenishment period that is necessary after something that you've been through that is mentally and emotionally and sometimes physically grueling and taxing. It's the rest stop. And so when you think of Virgo, and like I said, this need for us to be more aware of true self-care. And I'm not talking about that flimsy shit you see on people's reels and this is me self-caring with, on a Sunday I light the candles so I can get ready on Monday to go and do the same shit that I have to do on Sunday to light the candles for. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about self-care on every level, on a soul level, caring for your mind, caring for your emotions, caring for your energy, caring for your environment, absolutely, but first and foremost, caring for your vessel, you know, and it's such an important part of restoring harmony on the earth because we were taught to abuse ourselves and to call that honorable, to call it work, to call it ambition. No, that was a form of self-abuse that most of us were under in the false matrix. They taught us how to abuse ourselves and call it good. And now you're taking back your power from the false matrix by saying, fuck that, fuck you, fuck a bunch of that. I'm not abusing myself. I'm not abusing myself for anything, anybody, anyone anymore. I'm going to start taking all the energy that I was using to hurt myself to get these false displays of success. I'm going to use that now to nourish myself and really tune into what success is on my terms, which really, when you are in alignment with your soul will naturally lead you into that which brings you joy, which for everyone is going to be different. And your joy is what links you back to your prosperity codes. You know, so Mars is fighting for justice, but is also like, almost like, I'm hearing like Mars is like, yeah, just like Virgo, go sit your ass down, I got this. Let me get in here and do use my elbow grease and do the heavy lifting here. You go sit down for a minute. You've done enough. When it's time for you to come back in, if it's time for you to come back in, I'll let you know. But right now, you're of no use to me until you sit down Because the biggest act of defiance, war, revolution, whatever you want to call it, in this here false matrix is looking after yourself, is resting in order that you actually produce a real harvest, instead of a harvest for other beings that you never taste, or instead of constantly having your seed spread so that you don't have a harvest for yourself. That's not how it was designed. There is no reason why on this earth, as much as we actually have here, that every being should not be properly cared for. But it begins with how we decide that we are worthy of that and start to care for self. Jupiter, 29 degrees is also, like I said, it's a degree of Leo. And again, it's a gateway. 2 + 9 is 11. It's a gateway. So Jupiter in Cancer at 21 degrees, Jupiter is still making its way through Cancer. So this is about the expansion of the emotional body. It's about the expansion of the emotional body. So much of our emotional fields have been in combat mode. We've been taught to repress, we've been taught not to process, we've been taught that our emotions are not important, we've been taught that sensitivity is a weakness, all of these things and we've battered our emotional bodies. But here's the thing, your emotional body is the conduit through which your resources flow, because all things connect you to water. This is also speaking about now the expansion of the true grid system that is necessary on the earth again. Okay, so Jupiter is the Wheel of Fortune. Cancer is the Chariot. The 21 degree mark of Cancer is the 4 of Cups. 21 degrees is an astrological degree of Sagittarius. There we go, Sagittarius. So this is another level of liberation. And this is why the rest is important, because how do you recover what you've lost emotionally, what you've lost of your resources through siphoning, if you don't have the time to rest again in order to receive? So Jupiter is actually helping, like I said, the grid system of the new earth to expand into its place. But Jupiter is also helping you to rewrite your own personal grid, so now you can hold what it is that is truly yours, instead of holding all of this fluxion and density that's been clogging up your field and keeping you from knowing yourself and connecting with what was always divinely promised you, given you, I should say. It wasn't even promised, it was given. So, where else do I want to go? Pluto. Let's go to Pluto in Aquarius, because I don't tend to look at the outer planets, because the same story is going to come up, and they move so slowly that every single time it's kind of like, I'll go through them every now and again, but I don't go through them in every reading, especially because this reading is already so long. So Pluto in Aquarius at 1 degree. Pluto has been in retrograde. Pluto has been retrograding through Aquarius, and will be stationing to go direct, I think, on the 13th of October, which is like almost a week after the full moon in Aries. So it's stationing to go direct right at the halfway mark between the full moon in Aries and the new moon in Libra. And this is significant because Pluto is our planet of death and rebirth. It's a divine feminine principle of destruction, but Pluto also has a big part to play in creational order, because without our ability to know what needs to die out, what needs to be nurtured for more growth, what needs to be left alone, those are all divine feminine principles of tending, right? Tending to cycles, tending to the land, tending to ourselves. And Pluto is that planet that helps us to align with the importance of knowing how to utilize the power of death to clear away that which has expired, so that that which is new can properly come in. So Pluto is doing its thing with this Aquarian energy, clearing out that which is of no use, has expired, isn't part of, these new timelines, isn't part of the new earth, is false matrix fuck shit, in order for things that are in alignment with this new age to come forth. And it's working on so many things in Aquarius, and being at the 1 degree mark, this is the degree where what has been without form starts to take shape. So the 0 degree mark, it is the number that connects us with 0 point, the endless void, the infinite realm of opportunities and possibilities, where all things come into existence and all things go out of existence. That's the 0 degree mark, which is very Plutonic in nature too, right? But when you get to the 1, that's when something from that infinite void can begin to take form. So being at the 1 degree throughout this process of eclipse season, it speaks very clearly of what it is that is needing to take form versus what has taken form in error and is, on the way out. So Pluto is the Judgment card. Virgo, I mentioned that Virgo has the Reaper. Virgo, the Death card, and the Judgment card. And the Reaper comes to separate the wheat from the chaff, especially through Virgo. And the Death card, Scorpio, comes to burn away the chaff. And Pluto comes to clear out what the chaff has left behind or created. So this is kind of the energy of what we're in right now. Pluto is here to collect what it is that has been built in error. And also those beings, entities, factions, systems that are committed to continuing to create, or I shouldn't say even create, to copy and to manifest off of true source code and to invert it and use it in error. This is what Pluto is speaking of through this 1 degree placement that it's been holding as it's been retrograding and as it's been in this eclipse season. And then about 3 weeks after the eclipse, this last eclipse that happened yesterday, Pluto will be stationing to go direct as we enter into the new moon in Libra, which is a new justice system. A new justice system is unrolling. So Pluto is the Judgment card. Aquarius is the Star card, and to some extent it's also the Fool. Aquarius is also featured on both the Wheel of Fortune and the World, as all of the fixed signs are. The fixed signs establish something into being, even on the earth, right? So the 1 degree mark, it's a degree of Aries, and it connects us to the Magician in the Tarot. So the Star card, it speaks of the divine alignment that often comes, as you could say, prophesied by the star, or as dictated by certain planetary laws. Uranus, being the Fool, is the beginning of a grand new cycle. It's the beginning of a whole, it's not even a cycle. When you get to the Fool, it's the beginning of a new era, a new book, like I said before. Right? So the 1 degree mark is also a degree of Aries, and that speaks of, it's the Emperor card, right? Aries, it's the beginning of what is necessary to establish a new foundation. So all of that is at work through this Pluto energy that is so excellent at knowing how to usher in what is new by clearing out that which would choke it. And finally, we have the nodes in Pisces and Virgo, of course, and they're expressing themselves at 17 degrees. And we're just going to talk a little bit about that 17-degree mark because it is notable. 17 degrees is an astrological degree of Leo. As I noted before, we got a lot of Leo degrees here, so a lot of Leo energy underpinning this chart, which again is echoing what I said about the golden age codes, the age of Leo codes that have been dormant, coming back into life in us and on the earth. And 17 connects us again to the star card, which is the card of Aquarius. So the two golden ages are meeting at the nodes to the transfer of information that is necessary from the previous golden age to reseed this new one. It's here. It's here in you, it's here in how you wake up and remember who you are, and it's here again coming forth on the earth. So that's what I have for you. I hope that this was helpful and insightful. If you would like your own personal tarot astrology reading done with me one-to-one, where we go into the map of your own soul's journey and truth as dictated through your birth chart, you can book that with me directly, SOLARAH'S at proton.me. Presently, I'm doing primarily one-to-one meetings, so you should know that if you're booking for that, you need to do it at a time where you can block off about 2+ hours, because I go in deep into the information. Okay, but I will see you again soon, whenever that will be. Hopefully for the full moon in Aries, and until then, I wish you all the best. Happy new moon in Virgo, happy equinox, and until I see you again, be well, be whole.